I apologise if I sound a little scruffy this morning, this afternoon, tonight, I don't know. And I'm blaming it on the vodka. So today I'm going to talk about participatory storytelling. The idea of stories that you are a participant in. Now, to give you some context, my accent is Australian. So I come from Australia, which is up here on the map. I live in Miami, which is down here in the purple part in the USA. And right now I'm over here in Moscow. So now you can understand why I am seriously confused. Hopefully you will not share confusion with me today, and this will make great sense to you. Let me start by painting a picture of why the world of marketing has changed. And the first key thought is that when I started in the world of marketing, it was about icons. We created icons that everybody wanted. Icons that would make you look better, feel better, and be much better. Then with social media, which has taken over our lives, brands want to be a part of culture. We want to be in the social world, and we want community. And I always scratch my head and think, why would a brand want to be a part of a community? And then technology continues to evolve, and we live in a world of experience brands, where brands don't just tell stories, but they have to be some form of utility. They have to be useful to be effective. The greatest brands in the world today are all three. They are iconic, they are part of our culture, and they provide amazing utility. They do things for us. So how do we get there? The most important thing is to remember that even with all the technology in the world, stories are as relevant today as they have ever been. And I use Snow White as a reference here because in 2013, there were 2 new blockbuster movies for Snow White. But that story is over 200 years old. So a story that's 200 years old is still being told today because we connect with stories. Stories are fundamentally how we make sense of the world and our place within it. Every interaction we have with people is some form of story. It gives us the frame of reference to be a person in a social, connected world. As marketers, we leverage stories to change people's behaviours and perceptions. We want people to think and feel things differently and to behave differently, to purchase something, to do something, to talk about us. But storytelling is often forgetting a key part of its true definition, which is the experience. We often rely on storytelling, where we just send content and messages at people when we could create an experience. And the first stories of all time were people in dialogue, sharing stories over a fire. And there was a response and a mechanism of interaction. And one of the things I think about in this space is that consumers today have been trained to expect more of our stories. We want to be a part of them, whether it's being a part of a fan club that does charity work like Harry Potter's Foundation, taking your perfect selfie, which is not going to happen for me today, taking your photo in a selfie at an anonymous protest, which is sort of strange to take a selfie when you want to be anonymous. We want to be a part of stories. It matters to us. Now, importantly, we actually learn more when we participate in stories. Experiences are the greatest, most powerful learning dimension. And in marketing, that's incredibly important. And if you look into the world of cognitive neuroscience, studying both how our brain works, but also how we learn, you can start to understand why experience is so powerful in stories. Now, I'm hoping, even though English is probably not everyone's first language, I can do a little neuroscience experiment on you all. Is everyone okay with a little experiment? Okay, what I would like you to do is look very closely at this picture. Now, while you're looking at this picture, look very closely and close your eyes. Now, close your eyes. Now, if you've got your eyes closed, nod your head if you can still see the picture of the dog. Okay, there's a few of you nodding. So you can open your eyes again. Now put your hand up if you can tell me what sort of a dog that was. Okay. Put your hand up if you can tell me the dog's name. Okay. So the people who were nodding and the people who could remember my dog's name were going through a mental process defined by this diagram. And this is how memories work, and this is cognitive neuroscience 101. So what happens is when you look at the picture, you take a sensory, literal mental image, which is why you can see the picture with your eyes closed. It goes into your brain, into a central executive, which says, pay attention to the words at the bottom of the picture. And then you create, typically, when you participate like I just got you to do, an autobiographical memory. The sort of memory that you create because you are a participant in the experience. They are the most powerful memories of any. And the important thing here from a marketing perspective is that our brains have a huge capacity for this specific type of memory. The memory where you're a participant in an experience. So not only do we have a big brain for that, we also have great recall, which means we can remember it much better. So we learn more from the experience, as proven by cognitive neuroscience, than we do by just telling somebody something. Okay? So the power of creating participation in stories will create better, longer lasting, more effective memories. So what I want to share now, I'm assuming everyone gets the idea that participation and stories should come together. So I'm going to share with you 5 tips to think about with stories to create participation. And I'm going to show you a couple of case studies of some work that our company has done to illustrate. So the first key tip is to create with and for communities, and that is sort of pretty obvious, isn't it? In today's world, of course you're going to do that. But think about how you do that. The example here on the left was a program for the launch of Game of Thrones some years ago, and the whole idea was to get Game of Thrones fans to stand in line next to each other so they would talk. So we deliberately created reasons for them to all stand and gather because they all connected online, but they didn't actually connect in person. So we created that for them. If you think about the traditional Greek theatre, it was created in a circle shape so you could see other people laughing. You could see others' emotions. So the interaction was not just with the actors, it was with the audience. The second tip is to leave white space for people. Use storytelling where there's room for people to participate and create. And there's a number of great examples from around the world, what Coke did with their bottles where you could put your name on the bottle. And I'll show you some work that we did about 8 years ago, which really opened this idea up.
Are you looking for work? Well, you may want to consider moving to Australia.
Well, Korea's Tourism Bureau looking to fill what it is calling the best job in the world.
Hamilton Island, off the coast of Queensland, needs a caretaker. It comes with a rent-free 3-bedroom villa with plunge pool.
All this and a salary of about $8,800 a month.
And all you have to do is write a weekly blog.
That can't be right.
There's no catch. This is a real job. All applicants have to do is submit a 60-second video to this website, islandreefjob.com. And here.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm a police officer in England. You can tell by the silly hat.
Here in the north of Sweden, the sea is covered with ice. So if you want to go snorkeling, you need an icebreaker.
35,000 people applied. Well, I tried. The search is now down to 50.
Then they make applying look so much fun, it may make you wish you tried for that job yourself.
So I think you get the idea. We created an opportunity to people to apply for a job. By doing so, they were creating advertising and stories about their life in relation to the brand that we were creating. The third tip is, I'm getting ahead of myself, make it tangible. It's so easy today just think we can do everything on a screen. Think about how we can create connection with people that's tangible, real products, real experiences, physical things. And I'm going to show you a little bit of work that we did for McDonald's in the US to bring that idea to life of how in a world of technology can we create emotional connection through physical devices. So a very simple device that created a connection between parents and their children. There wasn't another screen. So it was something different that they could physically have next to them while they're in bed in hospital. The fourth one is to give positive feedback. Find ways where you can support people's participation and recognize it and reference it. And on the left is a project we did with National Geographic, encouraging people to create content, and we supported them. Josh Wheaton there, when he launched a book, he then went and sent people who purchased his book a gift. Just randomly. He just sent them gifts. Interesting things like a cacti that people would talk about and share. He was giving them feedback for engaging with his content. And the fifth one is to think about the channels that are best suited to the story. Don't just take a story and put it on every channel, but think about how you can use each and every channel appropriately for the story. And in this example, I'm going to use some work we did for Amazon Originals to help promote the Man in the High Castle, which is a series about alternate reality. I don't know if you've had it here, but it was post-World War II, where the Germans and the Japanese actually won the war. So it was the opposite of what actually happened. And this is the program we did to create participation with content.
Calling America. Are you out there? Alone? Waiting for someone to come along and illuminate your way? Trust me, you are not the only ones.
The Amazon original series, The Man in the High Castle, is set in an alternate 1962, one where the Axis powers won the war. To draw and engage new audiences to the show, we created Resistance Radio, a pirate radio network broadcasting subversive music and messages of rebellion from an America where dissent is a death sentence. Resistance Radio features 3 scripted shows, each with its own DJ host, providing a dramatic glimpse of life in the greater Nazi Reich and Japanese Pacific states. For our music, we partnered with Danger Mouse, Sam Cohen, and a roster of top artists to record a playlist of 18 new songs. At launch, we smuggled 7-inch propaganda singles to influential conspirators.
Holy crap, this is so freaking cool!
Unveiled an installation and concert at South by Southwest.
And when push comes to
and streamed one of the first Facebook Live audio initiatives.
The reality is we handed our country to a Nazi madman, and threw practically everything good we ever stood for out the window.
The show immediately grabbed the headlines, engaging our target in a wide-ranging debate about the meaning of freedom and authoritarianism in today's America. And the response to Resistance Radio was overwhelmingly positive, culminating in the release of a companion soundtrack album and the pirate radio concept being written into the show itself.
What kind of music is this?
It's pirate radio from the neutral zone. A little reminder of what we're fighting for.
Unlike any music I've ever heard.
So on that note, I hope you got the key point. It's time to shift from stories told to stories lived. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Darren. Now questions, вопросы.
And if you ask a really good question, I will give you a copy of my best-selling novel. Whoa, see what happens when you bribe people?
Можно на русском? Можно. Я хотел спросить, какие именно практические советы вы можете дать, чтобы начать писать истории, кроме того, чтобы просто начать писать?
What the exact practical advices would you give to begin to write stories? Some, maybe 2 or 3 advices.
There you go.
There's only one. Read the book,
yeah,
and you write like a pro.
Yeah, start on chapter 1.
Thank you. It's so easy to get a book, guys.
Yeah.
Можно я тоже на русском? Вот вы говорили про примеры продвижения для медийных каких-то проектов.
You told about the examples of promoting some media projects.
А если мы говорим про какие-то реальные проекты, может ли вот такой сторителлинг там тоже сработать?
And what if we speak about some real projects? Would this kind of storytelling work in some real projects, not media?
Yes, definitely. In fact, I showed you the ones that I'm really passionate about because they are different things than just a product. But inside the book, which I'm now giving you, there are some other case studies that you can read that talk about how we do it with products and with companies, and we use it primarily as an approach for everything we do, no matter what, whether you're a bank or you're a product. You can actually think about how we can create participatory stories, for sure.
Oh, you got it. Okay, who was the first? This.
Hi, I can ask in English. So I just want to improve my writing. So what you can recommend where I can find my inspiration?
Good question. I think inspiration is a really personal thing, and you should find your inspiration wherever you feel comfortable. I think that's the most important thing. Coming to events like this, to me, is inspiring because of the interaction with other people and the learnings that you get from what others do. So I think that's always a good thing, but do look for inspiration in the things that matter to you and that you really love as a person. I think that's always the best way to go.
What about the book? Is there inspiration?
There is maybe some inspiration. You can let me know later when you've read it if there's inspiration in there.
Okay. Last question.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I have a question. You was talking about experience as a new era of marketing and emotions. What do you think? Is it good to evolve negative emotions? Because it's also a very good experience and a very high impact to the audience.
So I think you were asking, how do we deal with negative emotions? That's challenging. I think in marketing, we live in a world where most people are not always wanting to do something or buy something. You know, we do want things, but there's a price to pay for everything. So I think we live in a world where we just got to accept reality and not try and mislead people. If it's not positive, tell the story as it should be. And I think you can then deal with negatives or positives or just people that are bored. I think you just got to engage them in context of what's appropriate. So. Negative emotions can sell, for sure. One of my other case studies I could have shown is actually for horror television. And the case study alone will scare you and makes you feel really bad. And it did really, really well. So sometimes people really do like to have negative things happen to them. I don't know why, but we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Darren.